defensive backs in the spring game. Just what was your overall assessment of them, especially the young guys?
I look at it more as the whole spring, not just the spring game. I thought that we improved. We still have a long way to go. We have a lot of young players back there that are learning how to play in the secondary. I thought Denzel Ward had a great spring. I thought Damon Webb had a really good spring. So those two guys are kind of the elder statesmen now all of a sudden. Damon Arnett had a good spring as well.
And what are some of those biggest transitions when you're coming from the high school level to the college level? What are some of those maturity things that you need to see develop through the summer and fall camps as you guys head into those?
Well, I think one of them, the speed of the game is so different. The pure volume of defense and of techniques is different. And then the accountability to execute those techniques. In high school you can get away with just being a great athlete. You can do it the way you're coached, or maybe you can do it another way and still get away with it. Here, the people they're going against are so good that if they don't do it exactly the way they're instructed, it's hard to be successful. So they find out very quickly that you need to get into a ritual or routine to be an effective player. And when you don't, you're all over the map.
It was really revolutionary what you guys did with rotating corners. Just hadn't seen that in football, at least to my knowledge. And it was so successful. And you did it with a pair of future first-round corners. I know Coach Combs has talked about you guys are going to do that again this year. Just speak more about that. How deep you think the rotation will be, and just how innovative that has been for you guys.
Well, we do want to do it. There's no doubt about it. But you'll never will do it if the drop-off between number 2 and 3 is so big that a tired 2 is better than a fresh 3. We didn't feel like we had a 1, 2, and 3 last year. We felt like we had 3 starters. I could see that happening again this year, but it really depends on the development of our corners and how they do. One of the guys who is new to us is Kendall Sheffield, but he's a little bit older. So he's not a rookie, although he does have to learn our way of doing things. So we're very, very hopeful between our incoming guys, between our guys that were here, that we will be able to have that rotation at the corner spot.
Who are the 4 guys you could throw out there right now and feel good at it at corner? I mean, I would think Kendall Sheffield might fit that mold. Who else would be in that group besides Arnett and Denzel Ward?
Well, those 3 are a little bit older, right? And then the rest of them, we have to see how they come along. They're very talented. It's just a matter of how will they respond. There's so many responses that we don't know yet because they haven't been in that position with us. How will they respond when they get beat for a touchdown? How will they respond when they have an issue in class and an off-the-field issue that distracts them? Will they be able to come out here and block it out? Those are all things you learn about newcomers that we have to wait and see.
Yeah, but when you see a Wade knock away that one ball, it's a spring game, but could have been a decisive moment. I mean, he knocks away that one ball in the corner. What does that tell you just about his moxie, if nothing else?
Well, we know he's a good player, and it's one play. And the reality is I saw plays where he didn't do that. So, when you looked at the corner play last year, I think the thing that was most impressive was the consistency. Very rarely did you see a breakdown of any type. Maybe we got beat one-on-one once in a while, but there were very few breakdowns. And that may sound easy, but it's not. You will look across college football and pro football, there's breakdowns every week. So, that's a tribute to Coach Combs and the job he does with them, but it's also a tribute to those players who, worked really, really hard off the field to be prepared to play the games. And, with young guys, you don't know that, and that's why it's a wait and see.
Greg, as you come out of spring and you're heading into this, what is it that what buoys you coming out of this that you saw in the spring, and where do guys really need to get better? I mean, where do you really need to see some improvement? Just sort of a general look.
Well, there's a ton that excites me about this group of guys. I mean, it starts with our defensive line. I think we have as deep a defensive line and as talented a defensive line as anybody in the country. And when you have that, it gives you the ability to do some other things. Linebacker core, I think, is solid. We lose Raekwon, but we have some guys that have played and and will play well. We have some young guys that are going to push them, which is great, right? And then in the secondary, we have a lot of guys to replace. But again, we feel like we have some people that can do the job. But until they do it, it's all conjecture, right? Yeah. That's our intentions. But we very well know we'll be judged on our actions, not our intentions.
At safety, do you expect that Jordan Fuller and Eric Smith will rotate to some extent? Maybe even Damon Webb. Do you think you guys might use a rotation there? Or?
Don't know. If we have players that are good enough to do that, certainly it'd be great. Right now, the guy who performed like a starter is Damon Webb. He had his best stretch of football that I've ever seen him, and I haven't seen him that much, but from what I've seen, that was his best stretch of football. He has a look about him, a focus that I think this is going to be a huge summer for him. He's going to come back and have a great senior year. After that, you know, the competition's on, and I don't know where it's going to end up. You know, some of the young guys at safety also showed some real promise. Guys like Jocelyn Wint, you know, who came in here and a year ago was kind of just figuring out what college football and college life was all about. He took a big step. Isaiah Pryor, a newcomer, right, should still be in high school. He's shown some promise. So again, it's so wide open at the other spot. The good thing is we know we have a guy, one proven guy who really got better, and we need to find that second guy. And like you said, if there's a third, then we play three.
Sam Hubbard in particular, you know, we saw him drop in the spring game, I think at least once, you know, in the cover. What do you see coming of that? I mean, is he sort of a piece of clay you can do a lot of things with?
He is. Very talented guy. He's a big man, but he has the dexterity to move around and do some things that guys his size usually don't.
Yeah.
So Jalen as well. Jalen's a really athletic big man. So I think it gives you flexibility. You got to be careful that you don't go crazy. You know, it's only good if they know what they're doing. Doesn't matter if we know what we're doing. But that's our job, is to figure out ways to get the best players on our team on the field, and that's going to be a big part of our summer.
Dumb question, but can you see that Sam Hubbard used to be a safety in high school? Can you see that in the way he moves?
Well, obviously I'm only here a year, so I didn't know the whole. You know, Coach Meyer told me the whole story, which is a very interesting story. Yeah, but you can see that he's an athlete who's gotten bigger and bigger and bigger, but he moves with that kind of efficiency that you can tell.
The defense was so good last year. I know you're not going to give away exactly what you guys wanted to improve on the most, but what are some tweaks you guys wanted to make? Again, the defense was so good. What are maybe some things you guys wanted to tweak this spring?
You know, you always have little things when you look back. Can we do this? Can we add this? But more than anything, we just want to get better at what we did. You know, how do you improve? You know, we made some great strides in taking the ball away last year. We went from 50-something in the country to 10th. Well, how do we go from 10th to 1st? You know, we did some things in other areas. Red zone defense, we weren't very good coming off a year ago. We really improved. You know, at Ohio State, you have the type of players that you should be at the top in all the categories. So we look at it and say, okay, we've made improvement. As Coach always says, now we got to enhance it. How do we make it even better? The areas that we didn't make a big enough improvement on, they have to be a focus to make sure that we don't have weak spots. So is there some new things that can help that? Probably. You have personnel. Do you put some new things to get the best use of your personnel? Yeah, that's a job of a coach. But the biggest chunk we have to do is really get better at the things that we already are doing.
Greg, you were a head coach in the NFL. I know you remember that. Malik Hooker has not been able to work out for anybody since January, yet he's still projected top 10 pick, maybe top 5 pick. You've watched him now for you. Why is that from your perspective, and what allows him? I mean, what is the upside of him you see big time?
Well, he has such a rare skill set, and when I say that, his range in the deep safety is, you know, as I've told you guys before, I've only had one other player that has that type of range, and it was Edward Reed. So that's pretty rare company. The other thing is he has tremendous upside. Now, I know he's coming off an injury, but I think it's a manageable situation. I know it is, but he's only started 13 games. Here's a guy who hasn't even played football that long in the grand scheme of things. So what do you have? You have a guy that's body is relatively fresh, and a guy that I think did some incredible things, but has a lot more to get better at.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's an exciting pick for an NFL team for sure.
Chris Worley at middle linebacker. Coach Davis was calling him the quarterback of the defense. Makes a lot of sense being the middle linebacker. How do you feel like he's doing there? I know Coach Meyer said there was some concern about his body holding up. He felt like he had the mentality to play there. Just how did Chris Worley look during spring?
I thought he looked good. It'll be a different way probably. You know, not everything, but some things will be a little different than what you're used to with Raekwon, because he's just not that body type. But I know Chris is a really smart football player, so he'll know how to manage situations differently than maybe Raekwon did, where he could just go, you know, he may have to slip the block rather than butt the block, but he'll get the job done because he's a smart football player.
Concerning Damon Webb, what do you think has clicked for him this year, and why is it now that he's kind of becoming this player?
Well, I think he has a lot of experience now under his belt. So I think when you go through that first year with really playing a position every snap, you have all that tape to go back and learn from. You have the good experiences to expound upon, and then you have the bad ones that you say, I got to get that fixed. That hurt me. He did an incredible job of studying himself, and then he tried to take those things and implement them this spring, and really worked hard. He's got he's also got that. This is it. He's got that 1 year left before he's done with his college career, and you can see an increased urgency on everything he's doing. And we just had our exit meetings with our players this week, and it was an interesting one with Damon. I think he's an incredibly focused guy right now.
You still sticking with that 5 defensive ends on the field at the same time, possibly?
That could be one of those things that we look at. You see when we go nickel, we have 4 on the field. So, and I really think Draymond Jones is a defensive end. He plays 3 technique for us, but he's athletic enough to play defensive end for sure. So when you get that mix going, it gives you some flexibility.
Sorry if you've already been asked this. Do you think you're heading towards a 3-man rotation at safety this year?
Oh, I don't know yet. I know we have one in Damon Webb. He performed like a legitimate big-time safety in the spring. After that, we have a lot of guys who show promise, but consistency is the issue, and truly understanding the whole defense. The safety is the guy who's got to make sure from back forward everything is right, and especially in the coverage end of things. So there's a lot more responsibility in addition to just making a play or doing a job. You have to have the knowledge of the defense as well.
When you look at
2 more questions.
Marshawn, and I know you didn't coach the corners directly last year, but to be considered the top cornerback in the draft, top 5 guy, and I know him and Garyon are kind of similar, so I don't mean to exclude Garyon by asking this, but just Marshawn in particular. What is it about him that puts him maybe on just on the other level that makes him a top 5 worthy cornerback?
Well, he's an incredibly explosive athlete. And when I say that, it's not just running straight line, but it's coming out of breaks. It's when he transitions with a route, he can really, really stick to people because of his explosion. And then I think he's got incredible ball skills. It's often said from the people in Glenville and from people down here that if he played receiver, he'd be a heck of a receiver. And I can see that. Some of the plays he makes on the ball. In the game you see him, but I see him in practice all the time. So certainly a guy that, whoever gets him is getting a really, really talented cornerback.
And when you guys moved Garyon to the slot toward the end of last season, how much do you think that helped him in the eyes of the NFL, knowing that he could play inside and outside and really have no sort of drop off?
Last question.
Well, it certainly helps. I mean, we talk about the ability to do many things. The more you can do, the more valuable you are in any league, but especially in that league when you have a 53-man roster, and I think it's still a 46-man game day roster. So I think it definitely has an impact. And he was the guy to do it, too, so that says something about him.
Why was he the guy?
Just his skill set and his ability to kind of be able to jump back and forth. He's also the guy that flips sides all the time, so that to me is a versatile guy. It's weird. Some guys it doesn't affect them at all, and some guys it really makes them uncomfortable. So when you have a guy that's really comfortable with all that, it makes you feel good knowing that, hey, we have the opportunity now to plug him into several different roles.
Greg, in the spring, did you guys at all discuss this rule where you have to, and it sounds stupid, but you have to have your knees covered this coming year with your knee pads? Did a lot of cornerbacks and wide receivers, of course, have not been doing that for years. Did that even come up in y'all's discussions?
I wasn't aware of that rule.
Yeah, it's coming in the fall. Yeah, but
wasn't aware.
But it will affect a little bit some of these guys.
Well, it's just going back to what the rule used to be.
Yeah.
And that was the rule.
Yeah.
I don't know what changed in the game of football that we went from covered knees to uncovered knees. Now back to covered knees.
Yeah.
The kids like to show off their knees.
Thanks, Greg.